Welcome to the second week of KANW's radio broadcasting class. Today, we're going to talk about the equipment you'll find in a typical broadcast studio. The audio you hear on the receiving end of your radio originates from the electronic equipment we'll cover in this session. The in person training sessions will concentrate on using this equipment and performing live breaks eventually simultaneously. You are now entering KANW's virtual control room, or you may hear it called Master Control, where all of the main program materials and broadcast equipment is located. You'll notice that all broadcast studios have some sort of soundproofing or acoustic treatment on the walls and ceilings to insulate and isolate the sound within them. Broadcast studios need to insulate or keep the sounds of the outside world out while keeping your own sound in and isolate or prevent sounds from bleeding too heavily into each other. Think of acoustic foam, carpeting, diffuser panels, or theater style curtains which absorb sound rather than reflect it. Let's begin with the various inputs, audio sources, or playback equipment. The most obvious piece found in every radio control room is a microphone, which we'll go over in greater detail in a moment. Many studios still use CD players as a backup for music playback, although the majority of stations use computers to play music and programming elements. The radio automation software is usually set to run in a live assist mode, meaning it plays one thing after another unmanned, but it can be stopped and manipulated manually by a live operator as needed. All broadcast studios will have a telephone to air live calls or to record, edit, and playback calls. There is usually some sort of digital recording equipment in the control room, which is used for quick recording, editing, and playback of audio, like when used for phone calls. Many stations air live or pre recorded syndicated programming, either long form like NPR shows on public radio stations or hourly newscasts from a national network, so satellite receivers are often found in broadcast studios as well. One of the ways local radio stations stand out is by broadcasting from a remote location outside the station in the community it serves. This is done with remote broadcast equipment via a telephone, radio frequency, or over the internet. Before the digital automation age, when I began my career in radio, there was equipment everywhere in the control room. Much of it we've talked about already, but analog equipment was the name of the game. Turntables, cart machines, and reel to reels, which used magnetic tape for recording and playback of audio. Studio monitors are part of every control room and production studios. These high quality professional speakers provide an easy way to hear what's on the air. Here is a picture of common microphones used in broadcast studios. KANW uses Electrovoice RE27ND microphones in its studios, but you'll also find Shure SM7Bs or maybe even high end Neumann U87s. Headphones are also essential for announcers, and the Sony MDR 7506 model is pretty standard. Some veteran announcers still refer to them as cans, since the earlier headphones were made of heavier metal with large earpieces reminiscent of the primitive communication contraption used by kids, where tin cans were connected with a string. If you are serious about broadcasting, I recommend investing in a good pair of headphones. Next is a couple of snapshots of studio CD players. The Tascam on the left is a slot loading rack mounted player, and the Denon on the right is an older CD cart player in which CDs were placed in a protected plastic sleeve and then inserted into the player for playback. Here are a couple of screenshots from radio automation software applications. KANW uses wide orbit automation for radio, but there are numerous other software available like Encode DAD radio automation, Skyla, and Zeta. They all have a scheduled log which plays audio sequentially with other playback features like instant audio hotkeys, audio insertion, and preview functions, among many others. This is what a broadcast phone system may look like with an optional call management software interface. In some studios, a console module replaces a handset, meaning the operator would control the phone system directly from the console. The next slide shows some of the recording equipment found in a studio. On the right is a 360 system shortcut, which uses an internal hard drive for recording and playback and has a built in editor interface. KANW uses the digital networkable Vox Pro on the left, which uses software to record, edit, and playback audio quickly. On the bottom is a picture of a satellite receiver used for the playback of syndicated programming. Here are some examples of remote broadcast equipment. The Marty remote pickup unit used a specialized analog radio frequency to originate programming from a temporary remote location. The Comrex Matrix is a digital audio transmission device for analog telephone lines, which produces broadcast quality audio over normal telephone lines. The Telos Zephyr is a codec that uses an ISDN line to produce broadcast quality audio from a location that has such a specialized line. ISDN stands for Integrated Services Digital Network. Similarly, the Comrex Access is a portable IP audio codec that compresses audio as digital data and decompresses the received data into a digital audio format over the internet. This technology uses either a hardwired Ethernet connection or Wi Fi and is the industry standard nowadays. And finally, here's a picture of some older analog equipments you may come across in your career or broadcast museum. The reel to reel used magnetic tape for analog audio recording, in which the tape was spooled between a supply or feed reel and a take up reel. Editing on a reel to reel consisted of physically cutting the tape with a razor blade and rejoining the edited portions with splicing tape, hopefully in the correct spot. Most stations had stacks of cart machines in their control rooms from which songs, station IDs, jingles, or advertisements were played, also using magnetic tape. Turntables are still fairly often found in studios, especially if the station features live DJ mixing shows. The turntable is a record player that plays audio from vinyl discs. Many audio aficionados prefer the older, nuanced analog sound over the perfected digital sound of today.